What societal shifts are happening now that nobody is talking about? I think we are slowly drifting away from acceptance of democracy as a Western society, but just very, very gradually. No one I speak to has faith in the government of their country anymore. Corruption is rife, they're always out of touch. My own government has changed leadership several times in the past few years without input from the people. People are realizing that having a vote or a choice doesn't actually mean a lot in most countries anymore. The government is just a club of the rich and powerful who do what they want when they want, regardless of what the people want or need. They do the bare minimum to keep people sedated. Reddit did not expect so many replies. I appreciate the variety of opinions and intelligent debate. Try to keep it civil. My number one takeaway from people's comments is that we are all too complacent in our comfort to make tangible change happen. Protest against what you feel is wrong. Fight for what you think is right. Maybe the world doesn't have to be like this. The rise of sleep apnea, less prominent jaws and cheekbones, and messed up teeth. Perhaps I'm just a persnickety old duck, but the gleeful embrace of ignorance scares me. I feel as if people had enough sense in the 80s to accept that if they didn't know something, they ought to listen to someone who did. It seems positively wonderful these days to just not know anything and be proud of the fact. I'm not sure why that is, but it's definitely something I notice. The internet is a loudspeaker. Also, it seems like it sells news, so they're going to exploit and display it more. It's more likely you're just seeing more of this than back in the 80s. We are losing food diversity at a rapid pace. For example, we used to have thousands of apple and banana varieties, now we are down to just a handful. This is bad because if a fungus wipes out the last remaining cultivar, Cavendish banana for example, that leaves fewer food options to the growing populations. We are losing the tolerance of accepting new crop varieties. We are setting ourselves up for the interstellar blight. I think there is a new labor movement brewing in the US. Wages are stagnant, and I'm seeing a lot more walkouts and strikes lately than I ever did in the 90s. The working class is tired of working for peanuts. It's all cyclical. We had trust busting and strikes for decent wages, benefits, weekends, etc. back in the day. Now unions are disappearing, wages are stagnating, and the middle class is shrinking as the wealth again pools at the top. The workers will demand fair treatment again, and get some of it eventually. For a while anyway, until it all repeats again. More and more people not having kids. I know quite a few people that don't have kids and don't plan to. I am in my 40s and see this as much more common now than the generation before me, and the people in their 20s and 30s it is becoming even more so. There used to be a huge social stigma attached to not being married and not having kids, but that has shifted dramatically in the last 25 years. The mental health of the current generation. Edit, General Z and General Alpha accurate. And it's affecting affluent countries the worst. I know people on Reddit love to rattle on about Australia and how amazing it is, but I don't think many are aware our population suffering from mental illness is projected to double by 2050. Like, 200%. People love to blame social media, but I think a generation of kids with more knowledge means they're aware at much younger ages that the people who run things don't give a bit about them. They're higher than ever before and they pulled the ladder up after them. Add advertising to that and you don't even need social media to see there's good reason for it. The dairy industry in the US and UK is declining and plant-based milk sales are on the rise. Yeah, now the fooder is planning to make it so soy milk can't be labeled as just milk. Apparently they've never been allowed to, but they haven't been instructed to change until recently. The dairy industry is quite threatened with the vegan plant-based movement. To be fair, soy milk has come a long way in taste. That was what was holding them back, taste. Social listening is the hottest form of marketing research and our phones are spying on us all. And people accept this because we all need our phones for our daily lives. Kinda bitty. I take phone vacation days submissions where I leave my phone off for 24 hours. Feels reckless and wild. Crazy bastard, you even left your house. PSSH, no way. He's reckless, not suicidal. A lot more young people are getting cats due to a lack of available time and space. Dog breeding is becoming more expensive because it's drifting into late-age empty nest homeowners. Additional, since this has risen, Sterilize your animals in every reasonable circumstance. Adopt, don't shop, and an animal in your family is a responsibility of love and care and never just a pet or a toy. Yeah, I have a dog and I'm young. Kids are too expensive. But now purebreds are expensive as duck we adopted, and our dog has been great. YouTube becoming a platform focused less on the individual creators towards corporations. You mean as an advertisement platform for large companies or a platform for companies to sell content to consumers? This is 100% being talked about. Maybe not in the mainstream media, but on YouTube itself, which is pretty much a mainstream media these days anyway. Creators are talking about it non-stop. YouTube won't address the problem at all though. There is a big shift in college majors. Students are flocking towards STEM degrees and shying away from the arts and lower paying fields. Not all STEM pays well. Fellow biologist, this hit home, currently looking for work. Lol. The amount of wealthy Chinese foreigners buying homes and land in established areas, raising rent and home prices beyond affordability. Mostly in West Coast North America. I live in Seattle and it's very prevalent. I've heard Vancouver is wrecked from this. New Zealand is also having a tough time with it. Edit. Okay people, this isn't a time to bash on foreign citizens. If I had tons of extra money looking for investments, real estate in booming cities would be high on my list, regardless of country of origin. It's easy to point fingers externally, but let's realize that our local governments didn't protect against this from happening to begin with. Vote. Run for local positions. Call your representatives. This isn't an opportunity to blame foreigners. Mums. People don't realize it, but corporations start to use more and more mums. Look at Wendy's prequel mums. Look at Jimmy Fallon Kringy mums. They're taking over, I tell ya. There is nothing that corporations can't monetize and sell back to the society that created it. I mean, if punk rock can be used as background music for ads, why would mums be any different? Condominiums are replacing apartments and vacation rentals, etc. are taking former rental units out of the rental market. In many places, if you don't want to buy a place to live, you have fewer units to choose from. All the video essays on YouTube. I absolutely love that trend. Even though the buzz has calmed down, the culture is still thriving and I'm still subscribed to Thomas Flight. Sadly, a lot of video essays say a lot while actually saying very little, if you know what I mean. People are starting to use soft toilet paper. Do you realize that toilet paper has not changed in my lifetime? It's just paper on a cardboard roll, that's it. And in 10,000 years, it will still be exactly the same, because really, what else can they do? This guy doesn't know how to use the 3 shells. So many new TV shows are reboots from 10 to 30 years ago using the same casts. I don't remember that happening in the 70s-90 seconds. They used to do reunion movies. Our media is generally avoiding creating new IP. I think some video games are starting to branch out again, but for a long while it felt like every new anticipated game was the 5th installment of an already successful series, and a lot of movies have been like that too. I guess they're trying it with TV as well, though there's still plenty of new good TV shows. There's a retail renaissance going on right now. Mass online markets are creating a fierce competition within physical retail shops. Physical stores are experimenting with new ways to keep and attract customers, and it is throwing retail workers for a loop. I notice a lot of older folks going out to actually buy a pair of jeans at the mall, while the younger folk are using it as a place to take pics vids. I see this happening in a giant loop. The majority of retail will move online and all the physical retail stores will close. Then a few years later, some large retailers will open up and people will think, how cool is it to just walk in and buy what you need right now? I have a positive one. Long-form content is making a comeback. I think there's a shift towards podcasts and audiobooks that allow for in-depth and detailed discussion about topics. Some of the most popular podcasts in the world routinely run 1, 2, even 3 hours long. It gives the hosts, guests, and audience an opportunity to explore new ideas they otherwise may not be exposed to, get into the nuances of topics, and even delve into opposing positions. Some of this information is coming from extremely prominent and respected sources in their respective fields. Absolute experts and academics that are providing real insights to large audiences that were beyond their reach not long ago. There's also an amazing amount of free or inexpensive courses from subject matter experts and even leading higher education institutions. I see this as a direct rejection of the short-form formats that encourage mindless scrolling and that have killed the attention spans of several generations. Everyone likes to pick on millennials, but I'm 40 and I had to retrain myself to focus on reading a book after years on social media. This so the democratization of information that the internet promised. I hope it continues. Not sure if it's an actual societal shift, but it's definitely something I've been noticing lately. Jobs only looking for temp workers and keeping them as temps until they're eventually replaced with other temps. I've worked as a temp for the last 13 months while trying to find myself a permanent part-time or full-time job that will actually make me happy with what I do, what I make, and other things that are important to me. In that time, I've seen an enormous amount of temp workers come and go. I've found an old friend that's also working as a temp, and my dad tells me about how temp workers are treated at his job. He's worked at his job for nearly 27 years and he's close to retirement, so his place is pretty much secure. He talks about how disappointing it is to see so many temp workers come and go in such a short period of time, how temp workers will bust their ass to get a permanent job, but at the same time, his higher-ups take advantage of the situation and have the temps do as much as possible in the hopes that they'll get a permanent job they don't get in the end. It also doesn't help that so many job postings online from temp agencies. It leaves me thinking that something is up. Yup. My son worked for 20 months as a temp. He missed the hiring cutoff by like 6 spots that were all there longer than him. Worse, you would just a temp so nobody counts that as proper experience. Like after almost 2 years you didn't do the same job as anybody else there. Actual printed photos and albums are going by the wayside. There are going to be generations with no family photos because they all got saved on hard drives that crashed, discs that can't be played, and clouds with closed accounts. It all relies on buying extra cloud space and tech that can seamlessly transfer data between devices and to new ones. Which I know is a problem, or at least a hassle for someone switching platforms or from old to new tech. The anxiety is real. I drop my phone that isn't backed up and I lose 2 years of memories and info. The United States is truly at the tipping point for college education costs. Should you pay $50,000 a year to many of the decent colleges and hope the return on investment VAR pays off enough to live and pay 7% on student loans totaling $250,000, or assuming you have a college fund, should you take the $250,000 and invest it on something else with a better VAR? The return on investment for a college degree is not worth it anymore, and that is not being talked about and is a sad state of affairs.